Right, so I saw this question from Coppermine on answers.unrealengine.com for how can I make movement on a sphere. So there's lots of different movement systems. Twinstick shooters have their own movement system, and he asked specifically for something like Super Stardust HD. Now, full disclosure, I have not played this game, but I am going to show you how to make a movement and a firing system similar to what Super Stardust HD has, as far as I can tell. And I'm going to do this using the Twinstick Shooter Template. So to start, I will open up the project browser, new project, Twinstick Shooter under Blueprints tab. I'm going to name it Stardust Tutorial. Already made a Stardust HD tutorial, and yeah, this is fine. I want the starter content too, actually. And let's start. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a planet blueprint. The planet blueprint will be used to provide an actor with the location of the surface where that actor is, and as well as the surface normal. And I'll show you why I want to do this after we finish the planet. We'll move on to the shooter, the ship itself. So let's just make an empty actor. You go to blueprints, new blueprint class, actor. We'll name it Planet BP, and under blueprints is fine. Okay. There's already a sphere here, but this is not the sphere we want to use. So I'm going to add a static mesh component. Name it Planet Mesh. Select this sphere. Let's do the shape sphere. Now, this one is a bit problematic because, well, a couple of things. We don't know its radius, and its center location. See, it's at the location, let's add a core. Sorry, a billboard, and I'm going to name it core. This will be the center of our planet. So, as you can tell, this guy is not actually at the center. Well, his core isn't at the center, and we want to make it so he's like this. And we don't know what the radius is, so what we're going to do is some quick math by adding variables that the designer will use to set the radius of the planet, and that we'll also use internally to determine where on the surface of the planet the ship should be. So let's do radius in meters. I'm gonna have the user input this in meters. It's gonna be editable, and we're gonna set a default of 1. Alright, we're going to add another variable, radius in units. Now we know units are centimeters, but I'm just going to call them units because they're not always described as centimeters in the engine. And in the construction script, we will then okay, so engine's bugging out. I'm going to restart it real quick. Anyway, we'll take that radius in meters that the user sets, and we will then multiply it by 100 to get a radius in centimeters that we'll call radius in units. And that's what we'll use for determining the size of the planet and also determining where on the planet the ship should be. So under blueprints, planet BP. Thought I was going to mess up again. We have radius in meters. We're going to get this, and we're going to set radius in units. Then we're going to set that to radius in meters times 100. And I wish I could type times 100 here. I should make a mod for that. So times float. So radius in meters will be times 100, and we'll get our radius in units. Next thing we're going to do is get the actual planet mesh, get component bounds. So the problem is, again, we don't know the radius of the planet and of the sphere, and we are setting our, or going to set our ship's location based on whatever radius we want. And so we need to effectively normalize the planet mesh's scale so that it conforms to whatever radius we set. And now box extent will give us a box around the sphere, and basically if we take that x, since it's a sphere, the box should be uniform, so we don't care really which one we get. If we take that x and we take our radius in units and divide by that x, that will actually give us a scale. That will give us a scale by which we can scale our planet. Scale. This will make our planet exactly whatever radius we want. I just use the built-in planet mesh function instead of pulling out from. So if we go back to the viewport, let's just play. Let's double check. Yeah, so set radius in units. Make a scale based on the radius in units and the box extent x, and then set our planet to that scale. So if we change radius in meters, I think it should change. Yeah. But one more thing, we want it to be centered. We want the planet's center to be where that guy is. So let me take a quick drink of water and I'll do that. Alright, so this is easy enough because we have a radius in units. Set relative location on the planet mesh. Let's split this guy. Our radius in units, we're just going to subtract minus. This is just a way of negating it, making it negative. Whatever our radius in units is, that's what we're going to move down by on the z-axis. And that should put, yep, our planet is now centered. And you can tell, based on the grid here, 10 decimeters makes 1 meter. And you can see that the radius is 1 meter and the diameter is then 2 meters. And if we do half a meter, let's see what that looks like. Should be 1 meter and, okay, click on this. And that looks like 1 meter, so this is good. We're not going to set the planet's radius there that we want though. Alright, so the next part is to delete all the scenery. I'm also going to delete this light mass importance volume. And let's delete this guy. I don't know why he's already in here. Alright, so let's pull our planet in. Let's give him a radius of 10. Zoom out by hitting F, and that will put me on the outside of the sphere. This guy, it doesn't matter where it is. The way we'll spawn it is it'll basically glue him to the surface when he spawns. Alright, so let's go to... We need to go back to planet. We need to basically have a utility function in planet that gives us the surface location and normal at a location. And that's exactly what it's going to be called, and I'll explain it as I go. get surface normal location and normal at, and at is going to be at location. Alright, so when we take a vector, the location, the actor location, say our ship, and subtract it from another vector, say the center of the planet, get actor location, that gives us a vector that is pointing from the center of the planet to our ship, but it's not, but the length of that vector is the distance our ship is from the surface. So we're going to take normal, we don't need the length, we're going to normalize. Later you might want the length, and so you might not want to normalize, and so you're going to get the length of the vector and then do your normal safe normal manually by making sure you don't divide by 0. This will already check for 0. And the next thing we'll do is times float. Alright, so let's go back to the outputs. We're going to do surface location and surface normal. So we have our surface normal. Basically, we're just saying that the up, an arrow pointing up from the surface of the planet is in the direction, this direction. The next thing we're going to do is take radius in units, plug it into this multiplication. And one more thing is, instead of just outputting right to this, that won't work. We'll get a bug where our planet has to be in the center of the world, because this is assuming that if we take this radius in units times the normalized vector, that is an offset. That's basically how far from the center of the planet our ship should be if it's supposed to be glued to the surface. And so we need to add that to this actor's location. All right. So now let's go to our Twinstick pawn. Alright, so let's move this. Basically, on every tick, we take delta time to determine how much we're going to move by, and along with the speed. And first we do the movement. Sorry if I move around too much, it's a bad habit when I'm working. I should try to slow down. Basically, we set our world rotation for the ship mesh based on what direction we're moving. So we take a forward and a right. Forward and a right input, and we make a rotation from that direction, saying it's the z vector, and that will, the x vector, sorry, and that says basically make me a rotation that makes this my forward direction. So let's look at that. So when I hit W, that's forward. S, I mean not forward but down, up, forward, up, down, left, right. So now what we need to do is say, let's move based on not the world, as in don't add actor world offset, but instead do it locally. So we want to move forward based on where the actor is facing. And we want to do this so that managing the rotation, sorry, one sec, let me think. Yeah, so that managing the rotation of this movement, because right now this is only on the x and the y axis, but the local x and the y is going to change for us, whereas the world x and the y is never going to change. So if we want to move not based on the x and the y of the world, but instead of like the planet, which I know is confusing because I'm saying world and planet as two separate things here. The planet is as in our planet. Then we're going to use the actor's local rotation. I'm going to temporarily break this. Yeah. So we're going to get rid of that. Add local offset. We're doing it just to the actor, not to the mesh. That'd be confusing if the mesh moved but the actor stayed in place. I'm gonna remove this bit. I don't really care to not move if we're not moving. That's basically what this says. If our movement vector is of a certain length greater than 0, then we're gonna move. I'm gonna get rid of that stuff. Alright, so we're gonna move by this much locally. So you can see here it's kind of messed up. If I hold W, I wish I had some overlay. If I hold W, it's fine, but if I hold S, I'm actually, here, I can't go back now, but basically, yeah, see, like, I'm holding D and it's going this way, I'm holding S and it's going backwards. And here's it, it's just wrong. And this is because I'm now basing it off the local offset of the actor, I mean the local rotation, not local rotation, but I'm moving based on the actor's rotation and the actor's position. And the problem with that is that if we're trying to face right here, this says set our rotation to be what direction we're moving, but what direction we're moving is based off that rotation, then you get this weird movement because it's I don't know how to put it, but it's just wrong. So what we want to do is we still want to add actor local offset, but actually what we're going to do is add a component. I'm going to call it, I'm going to get the arrow and I'm going to say actor forward. So the actor forward is actually made different from the mesh. So what this will do is say this actor forward will never change because we're not setting the world rotation of the actor, we're actually setting the mesh, and I'm actually gonna move this boom off, attach. So that's important to do for later on, basically because we are gonna change the way the camera works. Actually, I'll leave it on for now. Ignore me. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. So add local offset. Now we're adding to the actor, but the actor never rotates. Only the mesh rotates. Okay, and it's working backwards. Shooting still works. Okay. It's just inverted. I'm not sure what I did wrong. So, for whatever reason, W is backwards, S is, all the input is backwards, and I'm gonna do a quick debug to see if there's a fast way to fix it. If there's not, we'll ignore it for now. So Shift F1, move this guy, and not in scope, awesome. I'm gonna print off a message that says what direction I think I'm going. 8, -8. All right, so the reason I don't know why I clapped. That was awkward. The reason it's going backwards is because the camera is facing the wrong direction. Actually, I'll show you. I'm saying this because if I hit W, the X there is positive. If I hit Y, if I hit S, the X is negative. That means that we're moving in the right direction. We're moving backwards, and we're moving down, and we're moving up. This is up, and we're facing the right direction. The problem is the camera, it doesn't agree. Actually, the rotation doesn't agree either, so that doesn't make sense. We'll ignore it for now. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out in a bit. So next we need to glue this guy to the surface. Basically, after we move, and before we rotate, actually, let's go to begin play. No, not begin tutorial. Get all actors of class. This is just a quick way to find the planet in the world. Yeah, I'm just gonna get the 0th planet. There should only be one. This isn't gonna support Super Mario style, whatever. It's possible. It's actually easy to do that, but I'm not gonna do it within this tutorial. Variable planet of type planet BP. Apparently spaces matter now. So we have our planet, and we're gonna use this guy over here. Get surface location and normal at. Look at this pretty function. Basically, whatever location we move to, which is going to be determined by get actor location. Whatever location we move to, we want to find out where the surface location is there, and we're going to stick our guide to that. So let's do set actor location, and I'm also going to just go ahead and do set actor location and rotation. So here's the location. Now we need to figure out what the rotation is. The rotation is actually maybe a little confusing at first, but hopefully it'll make sense. Basically, the surface normal is our new z. So we want to make a rotation in which the surface normal is our z. So the simple way to do that is from z, make rot from z, and we just plug this in, and voila, our guy will be sticking to the surface. But he doesn't move right at all. And this is because we are completely ignoring this other direction we wanted to pay attention to, the forward direction. And the forward direction is going to be secondary. And what I mean by that is from zx. Alright, so we have our surface normal, and we're passing that as the z. Z will remain fixed. That means z is the definitive up direction. X is subject to a little bit of change, and that x direction is going to be the get actor forward vector. So we're going to make a rotation that will always keep our ship's up direction aligned with the surface normal and its forward direction as close to its former as its previous or current forward direction. And that will give us this. You can see, now we're not rotating the mesh yet. We'll do that next. And that's because, again, I disconnected in here. We're moving only the actor forward, and we're not rotating the ship mesh component yet. And I wanted to, and we're not rotating the actor forward, and we're not moving the ship mesh for the reason of avoiding that circular logic of we want to move in the direction we're facing, and we want to face the direction we're moving. So now we can do part 2 of setting the world rotation. And actually, it doesn't have to do with the world rotation. So let's go back here. We have this rotation from x vector. Basically, whatever direction we're inputting, that's to be our forward direction, our rotation from x vector. Before it was being set as the world rotation, which worked because we were never rotating the plane. But now, since we have an actor, since we have another component that doesn't rotate, we can set our forward direction relative to our main component, and we don't have to worry about any transforms or whatever, although we will have to worry about that for other things. But what I'm basically saying is set relative rotation. And the relative rotation, say that 5 times fast, is basically, I think I say basic way too much, but it's basically going to make our ship look in the direction we're moving, and at the same time our camera will remain fixed in the other on the actor forward. Actually, that is next. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the actor forward will always be facing in the same basic direction. So now you can see it's working. Controls are still inverted, and I have no idea why, but we'll get to that later. Let's fix the camera. So the camera right now, its rotation is an absolute rotation. That means this camera boom will always be have a roll of negative 80 degrees, and we want to make it relative. But we don't want to have it like on the ship, because if you see, okay, it didn't really update like I expected. Oh, inherit pitch, inherit yaw, inherit roll. Okay. See, this is weird, especially if I rotate, it's like glitching. So this is close to what we want. But what we need to do is just move the camera boom to the actor forward. Attach. So now the camera boom is based on the actor forward. That's basically not ever rotating, other than to stay aligned to the surface. Now let's start shooting. I'm just holding in one direction. I'm holding on the left. See how it gets weird? That's because the shooting is also based on the X and the Y and world coordinates, not our planet coordinate system. So let's go to fire shot. We give it a direction we want to shoot. What we should do is base this direction on our actor's rotation rather than just the world. So we have our vector that comes in. I'm going to move these guys up and out of the way. Can fire, all this stuff doesn't really need to change. And and neither does most of this stuff. Gun offset, this will need to be tweaked a bit. Actually, no, it doesn't need to be tweaked because this X vector, this rotation right here should fix this as well once we correct what that rotation is. So the direction is going to be rotated rotate vector. It's going to be rotated along our actor's rotation. And our actor's rotation, the forward actor, not the ship. The ship is always like spinning in circles, but we want the arrow keys to be independent. So if you are holding left, it will always shoot left. So I don't need the actor forward though. I'm just going to do get actor rotation. All right, let's test. So it's sort of working. You can't see it me shooting at all because it's shooting into the planet or something. If we rotate it based on our actor's rotation. I'm gonna do a quick debug, set to this guy. Not in scope, obviously. It's not helpful. Alright, well, yet another bug we're gonna ignore for a quick second. It's better to take a break on it if you have no idea. It's hard to have an idea on the spot. And then come back. Let's just see movement again, make sure it's alright. Movement's good, okay. We want to re-add this functionality. So basically, right now we're only moving, and we do not sweep. Sweeping is like is basically move here, unless you get hit by something. So now what we want to do is take the sweep hit result. I'm just going to put this like that. And I'm just plugging in how this was before. So I'm not going to entirely explain it. You can figure this out based on the comments. Although I will go over this drop Z component. This is problematic. So we take our normal of the collision and they drop the Z so that it doesn't move. So when you collide with like an object at an angle, you don't bounce off at an angle. You don't bounce off at an up or a down angle. That doesn't really work for us anymore. We need to take this normal and project it onto a plane of our surface normal. Sort of like how they're doing here. Project vector onto plane of this normal, then we're going to do another projection. So let's go backwards. We're going to do project onto plane. And the plane we're projecting onto is the surface normal. So let's make a quick shitty drawing. Let's say this is the surface we're hitting. And the surface normal is coming. I hate paint. out. It's coming out at us. This is supposed to be an arrow coming out at us. Here is the surface normal of the planet. And anyway, this is a bad angle. This should be going out more. Say the angle's more like this. And I'm gonna erase real quick. All right, so say that's the surface normal of the plane we're hitting. We don't want to bounce up in that direction. We don't want to bounce that direction. We want to bounce off at an angle. So basically what we do is we say this surface normal, the planet surface normal, we say this is going to make a plane. All right, and this plane, we're going to project this, let me erase right here and color this. The red is the collision. This is up. This black arrow is up. All right, so we're gonna say project down onto this plane and make a vector out of that. So if we start here and we go down right to where the plane is, and then we draw a line from the start of this vector over to here. I'm gonna draw a little bit past so I can draw these arrows. This vector is now a projection. Think of it as like a shadow of this other vector. I'm going to draw the underside of it there. So there, this vector up here is casting a shadow, is projecting down onto this plane. And this vector is the one we want to bounce along because this is parallel to the surface of the planet. So let's go back here. We have the normal, and we are projecting onto a plane is based on the normal, the surface normal. And we're not dropping any components, not today, unfortunately. And then we want to also normalize this because it's not guaranteed to be normalized. And this one's a normal, not a direction. So we're normalizing a new vector, basically a bounce direction. But we're also going to figure out how much we're moving along that bounce direction already based off this movement vector. Now the problem is this movement vector is based on the local coordinate space, the local offset, because it was like for X and Y only, and this also needs to be along this plane. And so to do that, we actually need to rotate the vector along on the actor rotation. Now this might be wrong. I hope you can't hear my heater in the background. It's really obnoxious, but this might be wrong only because it's not working over here when I was trying to use rotate vector, so we'll find out in a sec. Um, so now we're taking this V right here, this vector on the plane was wanting originally the move direction. Now we just got to rotate that move direction in, and that's what we're doing right here. And we put that in, and voila. Now, after we update that, we do, yeah, we make sure we're hitting something, and then we want to bounce in whatever direction this is. Let's see if this just doesn't break. Okay, so what I want to do real quick is make sure the planet doesn't actually have any collision. Collision, no collision. We're not even generate overlap events. Okay, let's add, let's move the spawn point to the top just so that we know where we're at. Let's add a cube. Let's just see if we collide with it. I don't actually know if this will work. Okay, we didn't. Let's see though if it says we did. I'm gonna save the project. It's good to save because this engine likes to crash, like any game engine. Red string. I'm gonna leave it as hello. All right. Let's make sure the ship. Okay, so part of the problem is that we're not auto welding. I am scared of how this is gonna break. Didn't break at all. Didn't even change. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up here. I didn't really spend a lot of time on this part when prepping for this, but the other logic should be fine. I mean, there's probably gonna be a bug here or there. Let's just go back to. I gotta figure out why the sweep hit result isn't working. I think it's because I'm moving the actor and it's not checking for the collision on the component. Yeah, this might be a problem, but I would think auto weld. I think auto weld would. I suppose it can't be welded if this isn't a rigid body. Let's see if we can just add. Let's see if we can change the arrow to be something else that will collide. I'm gonna set to a site mesh. I'm gonna change that, and leave the arrow in there for now. Arrow's still there. We just have an invisible static mesh here. I'll have to look into this next after I go back to the previous problem. And fire shot. All right. Let's see what happens if we're let's just do a transform. This shouldn't really be different, but I guess we should try it. Based on get actor transform. Alright, so for a second there it looked better, but then it didn't, so let's see. We'll just leave this. This is just taking the actor's transform and using it to basically put this direction from local space. So if we hold left on the arrow keys, that's basically negative 1 on the y-axis, and if we hold up, it's 1 on the x-axis. It's taking those and it's rotating it and moving it so that that direction in local space or in world space is in world space. So it's not x or y in the world space, but instead it's some axes based on our ship's transform, based on our actor transform. And whatever that direction is, we take, we make a rotation from it as from the x vector, and that should be the direction we shoot in. And location should be well, now he's colliding. Why is this not though? So we determine where we want to spawn our actor using this gun offset. Okay, so I haven't exactly figured it out yet, but I'm on to something. If you notice, when I'm shooting here, it's really fast. When I'm shooting to the right, it's really fast. But as I go to the side, let's say I'm shooting left, you know how slow those move up? Like, that is not because of the angle of my camera. Those are going really slow. And I think it's because... they are basically confused on where to move. They're not following their rotation. So I'm going to look right now at the twin stick projectile. Nothing in the hit that we need. Projectile movement. This projectile movement. It has constrained a plane. Yeah, so this constrained plane. I could set a custom plane, but I don't really care to. And you see now it's working. So that was the problem. It was trying to constrain it to a plane. We would need to do a little bit of more work. We could just manually set the plane. Custom. There's probably a way to, let's see. Oh, we'll do it really quick. Why not? I'm gonna get rid of these. That string I had. Projectile movement. We want to get and plane. If I could spell. Sets the normal of the plane that constrains movement and forced if the plane is constraint enabled. Actually, I don't want to do this because this can involve more work where right now I don't have a surface normal. I don't want to calculate the surface normal again. Instead, I should be doing passing the surface normal in and then constraining the plane. But we don't need to. It's not going to go off plane. It's shooting in basically the right direction. So if we go back now, that's working. It's hard to see. The lighting is not good. I guess it's not perfect. It's going through the planet there. Okay, so this movement is unrestricted now. Or it's still messed up in some way. I did not fix it like I thought. So the roll is negative 90. Positive 90, negative 90. I have no idea if those angles are right. So this is changing. The rule should be like 0 here. I guess it's the wrong direction. Let me just see what this says. -1 for the Y. see Z now is 1. Z is 1. So sounds like this number's right. Z is 1 here. So it should be shooting straight to my right, because this is I moved to the left, making Z basically to up. So the constraint of plane isn't the only issue. And heck, it may not have been an issue at all. Actually, yeah, it was, but part 2 of this issue. Oh, I'm an idiot. I re-enabled it. Yeah, what the... Wow, I'm real smart. Okay. Yeah, I'm just dumb. One more thing. I'm not using gun offset, though I can now, I think. Yeah. So I'm back to using gun offset, which was originally here, and then I'm going to try to use one more time, rotate vector, because I don't want to do this transform stuff. Because all we care about is, I mean, it's the same thing logically, but this is a little more readable. We're just rotating a direction vector to match our actor's rotation, and then we're rotating, then we're making a rotation from that direction that will determine where our bullet goes. Yeah, that's working. Alright. Let's go over the projectile real quick. Projectile movement has in it a velocity that is 1, 0, 0, which basically means that it's just 1 in the x direction, or typically the forward direction. Rotation follows velocity, so we don't need to set this actually, but we'll leave it. Anyway, the initial velocity will be based on the local rotation of the actor, and we set the rotation of the actor when we're shooting it based on this direction, right? We set the transform from rotation. We also have its initial speed and max speed set to 3000. These are all provided in the template. We set gravity scale to 0 just to turn gravity off. If you want to have it curve with the planet, that's another issue that I could go over in another tutorial. There's a lot of ways to work with this. But now we're going to go back and look real quick at the event graph for the pawn to see what's up with this part. I'm going to add this hit event I enabled on the ship mesh component, generates hit events. Get the display now. I'm just going to say what's hitting to make sure. It's not hitting. I don't really expect. Really quick, we're gonna break our shit by moving this. It's hard to test this. Okay, the hit event worked. It's something to do with it not being the root component. This is problematic. Maybe if we do give it just a tiny little mesh. I'm gonna give it the chair. Not like a wrestler giving someone the chair. Actually, the way this moves, it kind of feels like it's teleporting whenever it hits. So my hit logic is just not right here. I'm not gonna really dive into this too much right now. This is just sort of a bigger problem, how to handle collisions. But it's important to understand that the surface normal creates a plane that basically is the flat surface that we want to imagine things on. And so if you want to bounce off an object in an angle, you need to make sure it's projected onto this plane. And this projection right here is, well, this isn't in 2D anymore. I don't really understand what 1 minus the time does. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to call it quits on this part for the tutorial. If we had, well, I'll give an example. So I have a game it doesn't really use any of the stuff I just did. We started off with a sort of Stardust approach, but I went to a physics-based approach. I'm just gonna show it off real quick. So you can get an idea of what you can do with a spherical world. This movement system is entirely different. It's also entirely physics-based. I have like a little nav ball up there, all these interesting things that I have to do. You can take advantage of the spherical world. Most of this is blueprintable. I moved a lot of it to C++, but that was for networking purposes because Blueprint, as good as it is, isn't that great for multiplayer right now. But yeah, so this has collisions working, but that's because I'm using physics to move and physics to keep the player aligned at the surface. You can see the little wonky, there's shit bouncing up and down. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this tutorial helps. I don't know if I'll be posting this yet. I might put it on the marketplace at some point. I might modify it, enhance it, put it on the marketplace just to get a feel for how that works. I have to figure out this part though. This might be an issue. Although it shouldn't, because we're not in 2D, we're not in local space anymore. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments. Feel free to subscribe. I don't make a lot of these videos, but if people are interested, I will. Thanks.